My name is Scott Allardyce. Hi folks, my name is Scott Allardyce, and I'm the founder of the Canadian Disability Alliance. And we promote disability issues for people with disabilities. So the reason why I wanted to do this video was I'm noticing a bit of a trend in the diversity and equity space. Basically, that people with disabilities are not included all the time when it comes to discussions about diversity and inclusion within organizations or within society in general. This is becoming a disturbing trend that needs to end. The thing is that everybody has a place. I worked for just over 32 years as a professional policy advisor in a government within Canada. I won't say which one, but I enjoyed my career, and most of my career was spent not working on disability issues, although my last job in the government was dedicated to that particular portfolio. But that was only the last 6 years of my career. So the first 24 years of my career were spent on other issues that really had nothing to do with disability issues per se. For those that know me, you will know that I've had a disability all my life. In fact, I have multiple disabilities, unfortunately. My primary disability is cerebral palsy, which I've had since birth, even though I was diagnosed with CP when I was 6 months old. But basically, my memory has always been somebody with limited mobility. Then when I was 40, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And for those that don't know what that is, it's a type of blood cancer. It's not like leukemia, although it is similar in many ways. And I have a host of minor disabilities. My primary struggle has been throughout my working life dealing with people who assume because I am a person with a disability that I'm not intelligent. Although I don't think I'm the smartest person in the room, and never have claimed to be, I also think that I'm not the dumbest person in the room either. I have 2 university degrees in public policy and political science. I have a master's degree in public administration and law from York University, and an undergraduate degree in political science and history, also from York University. I have a college certificate from Seneca College in Toronto. York University, for those who don't know, is also based in Toronto as well. And I received all these degrees through hard work and dedication to wanting to be the best public policy advisor that I could be. Despite all the education and despite all the efforts, that I never felt included in the organization that I was part of all the time. Sometimes I did, but most times I felt that people with disabilities were always shoved off to the side. And that's my primary problem right now, is that when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we seldom mention people with disabilities. I worked with a lot of people with disabilities, particularly youth with disabilities, later on in my career, to help them find jobs and opportunities that they could apply to and start their own careers. And I was very dedicated to that work. The biggest problem in my mind has been that a lot of people don't seem to get the fact that there are other groups in society that have people with disabilities too, meaning visible and minority groups, LGBTQ plus groups, indigenous groups, all have people with disabilities who are also part of those groups as well. And If you're not going to include them in the discussion about diversity and inclusion, you're missing a huge, huge part. And I constantly see diversity and inclusion discussions that don't involve people with disabilities. So how can they be diverse and inclusive if we as a larger group of people with disabilities are not even mentioned? Well, we can't be. And it is unfathomable to me that in 2024, the same discussions about inclusion to involve people with disabilities are still not happening. Especially by people who claim to be champions of diversity or champions of inclusion, fail to understand that people with disabilities have an inalienable right to be part of those discussions, and they are not. It's frustrating. It's I guess the word I'm looking for, it's unfathomable that we are always left out on the sideline and only brought in at the last minute when people realize, oh, we haven't included people with disabilities. And I've been fighting for equality for people with disabilities since I was 16 years old. So I'm 57 now. So for 41 years, I've been fighting this fight. And I have to admit that I'm a little tired of fighting the fight. There are other people who are also fighting the fight. I'm not the only one. There's lots of people with disabilities that are out there trying to, engage in these discussions and make valid arguments and are really good spokespeople for the movement. And, I've learned a lot from all of them. But the one thing that I would say to people who are able-bodied, who really believe in diversity and inclusion, is when you're putting on events or when you're having these discussions, think about, have you included everyone in the diversity realm, which includes people with disabilities? And if you haven't, reach out. There are lots of organizations that you can reach out to that would help you, like invite a person to be on a panel or invite a person to give a keynote address. Somebody who is from a visible minority group who has a disability, somebody who's from the LGBT2 plus community who is also disabled, come and have a discussion. An indigenous person with a disability might also be a good person to have, because they can speak to the fact of having been discriminated against or being marginalized, and yet, despite having a disability and these other factors in their life, how they've overcome some of these issues. That would be helpful in the discussion, and I'm not seeing that at all anymore. When I worked in government, I often brought these issues up, and sometimes I got, good feedback on them, and other times I got silence. But if you want the world to change in a better way, if you want more people to be included in the discussion, you have to have the ability. You have to have the ability to make a difference, right? And to keep talking, and to keep raising your voice, and to keep questioning, and to keep, bringing forward ideas. And sometimes you won't get the audience participation that you're looking for, and sometimes you will. But you ultimately lose if you stop communicating. And if you work at it, and if you go about it in a professional way, and if you're not rude about it, if you're not angry about it, but if you bring up salient points that other people can appreciate and understand, then I think you convert people to your way of thinking. Being angry and screaming at the camera and being mad only inflames people on the other side not to agree with you. I think for the most part, people are generally accepting that everyone has a place and everyone has a voice. but it's making sure that all voices are heard, which is the most important thing. So I implore each of you to think about what true diversity and inclusion means, particularly for those of us who have been on the sidelines for far too long. I'm lucky. I've had a good career. I've had a good education. I've had lots of supporters. People that have not given up on me. People that have tried to, steer me in the right direction or provide me advice. But many people with disabilities haven't had that. So I'm one of the lucky ones. So just think about how that impacts somebody who might not have had all the opportunities that I've had. And think about how you can be a champion, whether you're disabled or not, for people with disabilities. All we want is access to jobs, to education, to transportation, and to health care, as equally as our able-bodied peers. We're not looking for special treatment. We're not looking for advantage. We're looking for a leveling of the playing field, to allow people with disabilities to get good jobs, to become real consumers within the economy. And so I think that if you're able to see us as that, as opposed to people that just take from the system, but rather people that want to contribute to the larger society, I think that then having a discussion about diversity and inclusion, including people with disabilities, would be, a worthwhile discussion to have. So just think about that, and I'll leave it at that. I've gone on for almost 12 minutes, and I do like the sound of my own voice, but, I'd prefer to hear what other people have to say. So leave a comment whether you like this video or not, and any advice or recommendations that you would have to improve diversity and inclusion would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.